don't follow in the footsteps of Shayṭān. And as I always like to ask, what are the footsteps of Shayṭān? Disobedience, right? Arrogance, disobedience, and then not following, right? Not following the order. So when Allah says, "What kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiban," that's a command. Fulfill it, right? Don't play games with it. You know, don't play games with it. Just simply fulfill the command that you've been told to do, right? وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطَوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. The other thing about the so-called khutawat, or the footsteps of Shayṭān, it shows that one, it's usually something that begins with just a single step. They say what, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Well, the journey to hell begins with a single step as well. Right? As they say, right? The way to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, I guess one single paving stone, one single step, right? Which shows that small things matter, right? Put in this voicing of khutawat, right? Little things matter. Sometimes we get so enormously caught up about, just because it's an easy one, right? LGBTQ. There's nothing that we can realistically do about this problem in society at the moment, right? So stop fixating about somehow we're going to get rid of it. Hey, we ain't getting rid of it. Number one, Allah has brought it about, and it's a fitna for us, right? But what's the small thing? Just simply stand your ground on it. Not only, of course, we don't support it, but we're against it, and that's it, right? Little things. Don't take that little footstep of, well, we just don't agree with it. That is a khatwa. That is a little step in the wrong direction. And let those be small footsteps in the right direction versus small footsteps right in the wrong direction. And understanding, Shayṭān is not a concept. Shayṭān is a reality. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Shayṭān is an enemy for you, right? Not an abstract concept, but a real enemy, which means that you have to, when you have an enemy, you have to what? You have to take defense. You have to take action, defensive action, if not offensive action. If you have an enemy, you have to be on the lookout. If we were in the army, right, you're going to post sentries. You're going to have a security system. You're going to take the threat as a reality, right? You're not going to take the threat as, well, is this talking trash? No, Allah is saying, what? إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. He is your clear enemy, so take him seriously. Right? And one of the ways you have to look, what are the tactics of Shayṭān? The tactics of Shayṭān are not direct assault. Right? The tactics of Shayṭān are always subterfuge, right? Are always trying to come at us from an angle that we cannot see, trying to ambush us. Look at how he came to Adam and Hawa alayhim as-salam in the garden, that he came and tricked and fooled them through guise, through rhetoric, right? That means we have to train. We have to be somewhat, tactical or martial in our awareness that we have an enemy that is out here, that is scoping us, that is constantly doing reconnaissance on us, that is constantly after us. It is constantly looking for an opportunity to trip us up, simply because of his spitefulness. We have to take that very, very seriously. إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ. Right? The only thing that Shayṭān is ever going to order you to do, and he is going to order you. Now, how is he going to order you? Through your nafs and through these other ways, right? He's going to order you through these other ways. Through what? Through doing different types of evil acts, or to do something obscene, right? Either through obscenity or through something evil and despicable. وَأَن تَقُولَ عَلَى اللَّهِ, right? And of course, that you will say something about Allah that you don't have any knowledge of. What is one of the ways that Allah, or rather that Shayṭān commands people to say about Allah which they have no knowledge or proof of?
One more time.
What is one of the ways that Shayṭān commands us to say things about Allah that we have no knowledge of? That we have no right to say, that we have no knowledge of, that we're just making up. Anybody?
What is it like? The vanity of self-admiration, like in regards to your own personal knowledge, something that you conclude.
Oh, you mean like kibr? Arrogance?
No, it's just an open question, right? Like,
One of his
Partners with
ways?
Allah.
say that again, Ernst?
Partners.
Well, of course, setting up, but in what particular, in partners, or not only partners, but misconstruing who Allah is. Okay, I'll give you a simple, like, people will say God is love. That sounds really nice, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds nice, right? And all you need is love. And, you know, God is everything, and God is in all of us. No, I'm serious. I mean, we, you know, people say these things today with sincere conviction. I see God in you, right? And God dwells in all of us. No, this is very serious, right? How are people arriving at making these kinds of false and dangerous statements? Through the encouragement of Shayṭān, that he will encourage you to say that which you have no knowledge of. أَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So if it is one of Shayṭān's tactics to say about Allah which we have no knowledge of, what is the, if we're going to take this, okay, this is, we have done reconnaissance. We have determined that this is one of the tactics of the enemy. What is our counter attack for this?
Reading the Quran to
Having knowledge about Allah of which he says about himself, right? Exactly. So the only way to counter saying something about Allah that we have no knowledge of is to counter it with saying about Allah which we do have knowledge of. How do we gain knowledge about Allah? It is not speculative in nature. It is not something we will conjure up through reason, right? We have to, right? And this is where in our own history as Muslims, we got into trouble on a number of times, particularly like with the Mu'taziliya movement, the hyper-rationalists that wanted to say things about Allah or change or make bizarre interpretations of the Quran based upon placing reason above revelation. So we have to, when Allah makes the statement, إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ مُبِينٌ, that Shayṭān is your enemy. Enemies have strategies, they have tactics, and therefore you have to have your own strategies and tactics to counter what they say. So Allah has given us three things. He will command us to do evil things. So one, we need to know what is evil, and we need to know what is good and how to avoid evil and how to engage good. He will cause us to, or command us to do what? Obscenities, which means that also we have a vulnerability in our system, right? So Shayṭān is exploiting vulnerabilities that exist in our system. So when he commands us, that means we have a vulnerability, one, to be commanded by him. We have to acknowledge that, right? We have to learn how to counter that because we are exposed. We have a vulnerability that we can be commanded by Shayṭān. Not in the ultimate sense, but it's there nonetheless. And it's in two major ways to do things that are either evil or things that are obscene. And look at what we have today in our sort of neo-Babylonian society, right? I mean, alcohol today is just taken for granted as just something good. You know, it's how you get together, it's how you celebrate. You know, people cry about, 9/11 and, those unfortunate, people that were killed in 9/11, but we have how many 9/11s every year from drunk driving? And that's not seen as something evil. Right? But go ask any mother whose child was killed by a drunk driver, would she want that child back? And if the only way she could have that child back was to get rid of alcohol, do you think she would make that bargain or not? Right? And then through fahsha, everything today that we see is increasingly about obscenity, exposing your private parts, committing all kinds of twisted, sexual acts, even to the point now you can't even have a staff meeting with people exposing themselves. No, very seriously. Like everything now is obscenity. So that is one of the two ways that Shayṭān exploits his capacity and our vulnerability to be commanded by him. And then the third is to cause us, we have a susceptibility to just speak without knowledge. That is a human vulnerability. So if you know these things are vulnerable, what? You have to train to offset your vulnerabilities. You have to train to compensate for your vulnerabilities. So in our deen, we have to approach the Quran, approach the Sunnah, approach our Islam that works to offset and counter these things that can be exploited, being commanded to do evil, obscenities, and to say things about Allah of which we have no knowledge. And the more that we awaken to this idea that we really have an enemy out here, then we can prepare and we can train to counter those ideas.